Welcome into episode 493 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. It was a very, very ugly win, or ugly loss, I should say, in Ottawa a couple of nights ago. We haven't had a chance to record since then, but they do follow it up with a impressive win when you consider they were down 2-0 early to the Islanders on Tuesday night. So Bridget and Scott, we have a couple of games to break down. Let's get into the opening shifts.
Oh man, do we have to talk about Ottawa? I thought we were just going to leave that one.
Unfortunately, I think we'll have to touch on it, yes.
All right. Well, my opening shift, it ties into both games, but more so the game at home against the Islanders because there were some adjustments made after the loss to Ottawa, but also just the stretch of the last games where Mason Lohrei, we had talked about maybe could use a little bit of time to sit on the ninth floor. He gets healthy scratch for the first time this season to start this game against New York. So he's out of the lineup. They send back down Michael Callahan as well, and they call up Jonathan Aspro for his first NHL game. And he basically, Sturm, before the game, said, we called him up. We wanted to take a look at him because he had a really strong preseason. He made a good impression in training camp, and I thought he looked good. But mainly things that we'll get to later from this opening shift is the scratch of Lohrei and Hampus Lindholm coming back to the lineup, and what he said after the game about feeling like his injury is behind him and feeling like he wanted to be 100% before he got back in because he doesn't have another speed. So basically he was not going to be able to like hamper himself, not to like rhyme with his name, but to go down to, playing at 90%. So I thought he had a pretty big impact on the game as well. He had a really nice assist on Pasternak's goal, kind of like a fake, like I'm going to shoot it, slide it over, and Pasta finishes it. And after the game, Marco Sturm said, I wanted to give him a hug, except for after the first shift. But if anyone remembers how that game started and Hampus jumps into the rush and then Pasternak's the only one left back to play defense. And actually after the game, post-game, Pasternak made a joke and he was like, you never want me to be the last one back. So he was joking about that. But anyway, encouraging to see Hampus Lindholm looking like he's healthy, so he feels healthy. And maybe we saw some positive changes in the defense too. And I know, Scott, you wanted to talk about McAvoy and what you saw from him too. So we'll get to the defense again later.
Yeah, my opening shift is about Morgan Geekie, who might just be one of the best goal scorers in the NHL now. Like, this might just be what he is. Obviously caught fire from the start of December on last year and ended up with 33 goals on the season, blowing away his previous career high. Bruins signed him to a 6-year extension, $5.5 million a year. A lot of talk about, like, is he going to be worth that? Is he going to regress? Can he really be the player he was last year? Well, he's got 8 goals in 12 games this season. One off the league leaders. There's a few guys tied at 9 ahead of him. 5-game goal streak now. He 6 goals during that time. Last night, it was a absolute rocket on the power play in the third period. Actually registered as the hardest shot on any goal in the NHL this season. 95.68 miles per hour. The caveat here is he's shooting 32% in the season, and that's probably unsustainable. Totally fair. But, he shot, 22% last year? He clearly has a great shot, and I think you've seen him grow into a player who just has a nose for the net and a nose for open space in the offensive zone.
He's one of the smarter players in the league. I know I think I said it's last episode. I just see him like outsmart people all the time, I feel.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, yeah, maybe he doesn't continue to finish at 32%, but he's going to keep getting great scoring chances, whether that's on the power play, whether it's 5-on-5, playing on the line with Pastrnak usually, although he did get dropped down to the third line Tuesday night, which we can get into. So
yeah, it didn't seem like a demotion. Like, I know we originally thought maybe it was, but then when Sturm talked after the game, it sounded like it was like a balance the lines kind of thing. So I definitely don't want to steal your shift, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I also think maybe Sturm just didn't want to throw someone under the bus after a good game and after Geekie ultimately finished that game strong with a goal. But I mean, maybe he's telling the truth. But I think the let's just be honest, lazy back check on the Islanders' first goal. Generally, that's what gets you demoted in the lineup, and it was right after that Sturm made that switch. So
Yeah.
I will believe that was probably why, even if he doesn't want to say it. But
I'll read the quote later, and we can all decide what we think.
But yeah, just to wrap up though, like, feel like generally people still aren't really talking about Morgan Geekie as, like, it's just hard to believe that he's actually might be one of the best goal scorers in the league, but it feels like a conversation we might need to start happening. Since December 1st of last season, third most goals in the NHL. The only two guys with more are Leon Draisaitl and David Pastrnak.
And David Pastrnak said he thinks he could have a 50-goal season. He says he thinks he's good enough to be a 50-goal scorer in a year. And I mean, Pasta had a lot of really nice things to say about him as being one of the best. He said he has the best shot in the league. So like he had a lot of praise for him, and you do see he's got a deadly shot. Or no, he said he had the best shot on the team or the league. I don't know. He's got a really good shot that's undeniable at this point.
How many goals can you guys think of, generally speaking, that Morgan Geekie scores in tight from, a deep or just a rebound? Not many, which speaks to the element of he's scoring. He's not only converting at a high shooting percentage, but he's doing so from distance a lot of times too. Yeah,
last year there were definitely some backdoor tap-ins off great setups by Pastrnak mixed in.
That's true. There were definitely
there have not been many or maybe even any of those this year so far. Like, I actually still think there's legitimately still chemistry to be rediscovered between those two, especially at 5-on-5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, my thing with Geekie before I go into my opening shift is just like I wanted to see him do it again, right? I mean, somebody mentioned to me online last night after I mentioned he had a 5-game goal streak. If I believe in his scoring ability now, and it's not that I didn't believe in his scoring ability, it's to the extent of his ability, right? I believe he's a 25 goal scorer all day, I think, but is he a 30 goal scorer again, or 40 goal scorer even, or more? I just have to be fair, you just have to see it again. I mean, you have to see it again. That's the way that's the way it goes. Okay, so I mentioned on our last episode that with 3 games remaining in the month, the Bruins, in my opinion, needed to win at least 2 of them. And, to really give their season an opportunity going forward, right? They were 4-6 at the time. So had they won out, they could have finished 7-6. If they lose out, 4-9 or anything in between. And it didn't start out hot with a 7-2 thumping in Ottawa. And, the second goal for the Bruins was in the dying seconds, and they felt the need to the situation room had no choice but to review it in a 7-2 game. And I was thinking about that, guys, not to derail myself, but the natural thought is, why on God's green? Yeah, Scott, I hear some tapping too. So if you guys hear some tapping, I don't know I don't know what it is, but I think it might be coming from might be a ghost in my apartment or something. But anyway,
someone's trying to communicate by Morse code.
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry if you guys can hear that. But the goal by Arvidsson, I was wondering why they reviewed it to possibly take it off the board. And I guess playoff positions could come down to 1 goal in goal differential sometimes. So you do have to review every little thing.
Scott. That's Scott was gonna say.
No, yeah, I mean, look, just to bring this back around to the Islanders game, most recent game, like, that first period looked like it was just going to be a carryover of the third period in Ottawa. And I know Marco Sturm after the game said he liked where they were after the first period, or he said he had a good feeling. And I was like, you might have been alone in that building. Like maybe him and I guess the rest of the team, but the building was dead because the team looked dead. You're down 2-0. You get outshot 10-4 in the first period. 2 of those shots came on the first shift of the game. So it was only 2 shots over the final 19 minutes of the first period. Like it was like I was just thinking like, oh my God, like this could be the kind of game where it's like you might as well just wrap up the season now. Like if you're gonna follow up Monday night in Ottawa with a game like this, where you just basically don't show up and get run over by the Islanders, I mean, how do you really recover from that? Well, they didn't roll over. They did recover during the first intermission, and really right from puck drop in the second period, like took over. Charlie McAvoy draws a penalty on the opening shift of the second period. They don't score in that power play, but then Mark Kastelic draws a penalty right after. They do score in that one. That's the Elias Lindholm power play goal, which, by the way, I meant to check this at after, but at the time, put him in the tied him for the league lead in power play goals. So it looks like Pavel Dorofeyev scored another one Tuesday night. So Dorofeyev leads the league with 5, but Elias Lindholm tied for second with 4. Still not really doing much 5-on-5 scoring, which is going to have to change at some point, but that has certainly been a welcome sign for the power play, which ultimately scores twice Tuesday night. And don't look now is up to 22% on the season, 12th in the NHL. Like progress.
It is. And before I was distracted by Casper the Friendly Ghost over here. Yeah. So I appreciate you stepping in there, Scott. But yeah, to tie out my opening shift, it was basically the Bruins follow up the loss in Ottawa with a win against the Islanders, and now they sit at 5-7 with one game remaining this month, and they need to figure out which way they want this season to go, because through much of October, it has been, since their 3-game winning streak, through losses where it's been hard fought up until a blowout loss in Ottawa, and then the ugly start against the Islanders. It's like this team at times has looked like they're just going right for the bottom, and it's way too early in a hockey season for your season to be over. Truly. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. Like, you cannot have your season end before November even hits. And that to me is what was on the line heading into these final 3 games. And right now they're 1-1. What's going to happen in the rubber match? Again, it's a winnable game against Buffalo. So if you want to be a lottery team, go out and lose to Buffalo. I dare you. Go out and lose to them at home. Finish the month 5-8. If you want a chance at a season, take care of business against Ottawa. Enter November just under 500 and see if you can have a halfway decent month and get yourself into a wild card picture. This season is still in their hands. Is again essentially my point here.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that they have Hampus Lindholm back, he said, I don't want to miss another game the rest of the season. He seems like he thinks he's done, like he's not going to be taking more maintenance games, and that he's hoping to play straight through the rest of the year. Obviously, that may not be the case. He's dealt with injuries in the past, especially this last 2 seasons. But with him back, it does make me think, right? Like, he missed so much time to start the year. If he's in, what's their record? Like, is that a different record? Do we think that he makes a difference enough in any of these games for them to be 500? Or, you know what I mean? Like, is his impact missed so much that this would be we wouldn't be talking about a lottery team already in October because he's so important to the defense, especially in a year where it has started out really not going well defensively. So I wonder what his impact will be the next few games. And if you see like a major jump in either the defensive numbers or just the eye test of watching coverage look better, watching the depth on defense be more balanced. They decided not to put Lindholm with McAvoy, but Sturm kind of talked about wanting to spread out some of the players on defense, not to stack a certain line, a certain pair. But yeah, like I wonder if him being back and if he's legitimately healthy, we see some of that turnaround, because it had been ugly at times. I think, Scott, maybe you tweeted this. One of the other reporters on the beat tweeted about how the defense once again was supposed to be the Bruins' strength, and it's been probably their biggest weakness so far.
I literally wrote that column Tuesday morning.
So it was you. Okay, that's what I thought. And you know, how much can Lindholm change that? I think he's a really great defenseman, and maybe things just start to look better. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he helps you at least get to overtime in a couple of those games that you blew late. Like maybe if he's out that important shift, there's more composure. Like definitely possible. And that's like, I kind of keep looking at that when I look at the standings too, is like how much it just how much worse it looks because they couldn't get to overtime in a couple of those games. Like even just take the two last week. What was it? Anaheim and Florida. Those games should have been to overtime. If they do, even if they lose in overtime, they are 5-5-2. And look at like that's hockey 500 because you would have a 500 points percentage. Look at all the teams that are like hockey 500 right now. The Panthers, Senators, Sabres, Lightning, Islanders after last night. Like that, you would just be right in the middle of that group. Instead, you have 7 regulation losses, which is second most in the NHL. Only the Calgary Flames have more, which, by the way, like talk about a team that has just completely collapsed, that seemed to take a step forward last year and had some playoff aspirations, and is now probably once again going to be in like full fire sale mode. People are already talking about Nazem Kadri and Rasmus Anderson as trade candidates. But yeah, like maybe Hampus Lindholm makes, maybe even if it's as simple as like 2 points. Not that you would look great, not that you'd be like, hey, this is a playoff team, but it would look better. You'd be much more in the mix instead of at the bottom of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and you know what else would help the Bruins not be where they are to this point is if Charlie McAvoy wanted to play anything resembling what Charlie McAvoy has been throughout much of his career. And fortunately, he bounced back recently against New York. But you not only have you been without Hampus Lindholm, but you've been with a Charlie McAvoy who has just been a shell of himself. And we can talk about what those reasonings are. Is it because he's playing with Mason Lohrei, who's defensively a bit of a struggle out there, to put it lightly? I don't know. And obviously Lohrei gets scratched. So we can talk about that as well. I know we mentioned that earlier, but
it doesn't seem like a health thing. I just wanted to say that because like obviously last year he missed time, all the end of the season, but he's had plenty of time to get healthy during the summer. He said he feels better. When we talked to him before the season, he says he felt better than he has in a long time because of how much time he got to rest and work on, just recovering. So yeah, I don't think it's health related at all.
Maybe the first few games, right? You're getting your feet wet, but you're a month into the season. I'm not saying he's necessarily mid-season form. I know he's missed some time, obviously dating back to last year, but I don't think it's a health thing with McAvoy. I think it's honestly everything but. I think he has struggled. I think his partners have struggled. It's been a whole team thing, and it's been a lot of self-inflicted wounds throughout October, and him. And again, you're not going to scratch Charlie McAvoy. You're just not going to do it. But you are going to scratch Mason Lohrei, because I do think that it hasn't just been Lohrei's blunders. Like McAvoy has had some self-inflicted wounds as well, miscommunication with his D partners as well. It's not all on Lohrei, But in this situation, he's going to feel the wrath, and like he deserves it too. I'm just saying, if you're going to scratch one of those guys, it's going to be Mason Lohrei.
Yeah, McAvoy also leads the NHL in minor penalties. Like, that's also a product of not playing good enough defense. I think you could afford him some leash, knowing, okay, he suffered a pretty serious injury, an infection. He missed a lot of time. Add in, he's playing with Lohrei, who is obviously still has quite a bit of developing to do. Like, you could afford some leash and be like, okay, that explains why he doesn't look like one of the 10 to 20 best defensemen in the league. It just, you can't give him that much leash to, like, he was playing poorly. There's just no way around it. Like, he was not playing good defense. He was not especially involved offensively. It hasn't been good enough. Now, all that said, I thought he was excellent Tuesday night. And I thought that pairing with him and Zadorov was excellent. And by the way, that's 2 games that they've been together, 2 games the Bruins have won. They were together for the Colorado game on Saturday, where they were handed, really the toughest defensive assignment you can get, matching up against the McKinnon, Nachas, Lehkonen line. And yes, spent a lot of time in their zone, were under fire at times, but ultimately the Bruins get the win. Like, you come out on top. They did, as good a job as I think you could reasonably expect after that, that early mix-up that led to Lehkonen's goal. Yeah. Like, they were pretty solid from there on out. And then they were really good Tuesday night against the Islanders.
Why split them up? Why split them against Ottawa?
Yeah, Sturm was asked that before the game and basically said, well, Ottawa's a different kind of lineup where their talent is more spread out. It's not focused at the top. You also can't control line changes on the, matchups on the road. So, like, I understand. And by the way, this is where the importance of Hampus Lindholm comes in, because if you have Hampus Lindholm in Ottawa, then you have a second pairing that you can have out there against anyone, and maybe you can keep Zadorov with McAvoy. As it is, McAvoy and Zadorov are your top 2 defensemen. And I get why Sturm would have felt like, I need to have them split up, because Ottawa can basically has 3, like, not true number 1 lines, maybe like 3 second lines, or like 1.5 lines. Like, I get why he felt that way, but obviously it didn't work. It was another tough game for Lohrei McAvoy. It's a tough game for everyone, but yeah, going back to that on Tuesday, like, I don't know how you could argue not to keep that pairing together right now. Like, I think you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. What Sturm said before the game about it was, like, when they played the Avs, he stacked up with McAvoy and Zadorov to battle against the top line, because it's their top line's stacked with McKinnon, and, like, they wanted them to be out there for those shifts, and they were at home so they could line match more. But yeah, no, I think they should be together. And Lindholm Peak looked pretty good too. And when Sturm talked about it after the win against the Islanders, he said he thinks Lindholm makes Peak feel really comfortable, and that Peak plays better when he's with Lindholm. So it just maybe brings up his play a little bit as well. And maybe that's a better combo than him with Zadorov. We'll see, but that seemed like something that Sturm was looking to go back to. So I wouldn't be surprised if at least those 2 pairs stayed the same. So then what happens when Lohrei comes back? Because I don't think he's going to be scratched 2 games in a row. So he'll probably be back against Buffalo.
Might be.
He could be. I mean, if you want to keep Aspero up and you thought he did well enough to stay in the lineup, but more than likely, I feel like it's going to be Lohrei Jokiharju for the third pair against Buffalo. But obviously
that's a soft pair. That's a soft pair to me. I don't like.
Yeah.
I know there's only so many options.
Yeah, that's a defensively exposable pair right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a believer in, you've really needed wins. you have a lineup that won a game, like I'm tempted to kind of just roll with the same lineup.
I mean, Jonathan Aspero, am I saying his last name correctly?
Yes.
So I'm not comparing his skill set to Lohrai's, and I'm not saying that he's going to be in the lineup going forward long term over Lohrei. I would say, wasn't it refreshing last night to see him, Aspero? I mean, if you want to compare him to Lohrei in this situation, like being defensively and physically hard to play against, winning battles, like there was just a level of nastiness, like compete, that I just feel like you need on a back end to an extent if you're going to be like not. I don't know. I watched Lohrei lose too many battles, and it was nice. It was nice to see Aspero like go shoulder to shoulder with someone to take the puck. Like you don't see that very often with Lohrei. I know Lohrei brings a lot of offensive ability and whatnot that Aspero would not bring. I get that, but I just think you have to be at certain positions. You have to be tough to play against. When forwards hop on the ice against Lohrei and Yoki Haru in particular, it's like they're not fearing going into the corners with those guys or battling beneath the goal line or battling for positioning in front of the net. Like, and don't get me wrong, I know not every defenseman in the NHL is going to be Scott Stevens out there. I'm not trying to give people unfair expectations. I just think that it was refreshing. And so my question to you guys is when Lohrei gets back into the lineup, whenever that is, what do they do with him if he just continues to struggle defensively? If he continues to just not be able to defend well enough to stay in the lineup and help this team win, what do you do with him? Are you if
you talking about like trade or like
I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's why I'm asking you guys. Like, is it realistic to think that they don't trade him, but he's just their seventh defenseman? I'm not even saying who their sixth would be, but what do? You can't, because they're gonna give him a chance to redeem himself. I guess my point is, what if he doesn't?
Then you keep scratching him. Yeah, then he's your seventh defenseman. Like
Okay.
you gotta earn your spot in the lineup. And I know he's getting paid $3 million or slightly more, whatever. But you gotta win a spot, and that's gonna be consistent. So if he comes back in and he's still not good enough, then you scratch him again and you give other guys an opportunity. I will say, Aspero won some battles. I also think there were times that he was out of position. And I think kind of clearly to me, like not up to NHL speed. Now that can change. It was his first ever NHL game, by the way, at 26 years old. So like there's a good story there of someone who just fought through year after year after year in the AHL and really grinded for this opportunity. I'm fine with giving him another game. I'll be honest, I was a little surprised Callahan got sent down. I thought he had played pretty well. So, like if you're looking at, okay, what can a third pairing be if Lohrei doesn't earn his way into the lineup on a regular basis? Like Callahan, Yoki Haru could be a third pairing for me, or so
Harris also is injured now, but isn't like Harris is injured now, but like if he comes back, like
he's not coming back for a while.
Yeah, no, he's on IR right now.
And he's also in a boot. So
what about if we're talking a large sample size, like we're gonna call somebody up and give him a stretch of hockey here, not just a one or two game call up, because those dynamics change who you might want to bring up, right? But if they're looking for somebody to give a tryout to for a little bit, see if they can take a job. What about Frederic Brunet? I mean, he's somebody who brings a level of skating, offensive creativity, and defensive ability, and I think he competes hard too. Like I mean, if you're talking about somebody who can give you some of what Lohrei can bring, but maybe brings you more defensively. And again, we haven't seen it at the NHL level from Brunet. That's why I'm saying it'd have to be kind of a hey, here's your chance, kid type of moment. What about somebody like him who has maybe more of a higher ceiling than a Callahan? Callahan's more of a safe play. I hear you on that. But what about his name?
Yeah, he's certainly has a higher offensive ceiling. We saw him. He's got a really nice shot from deep, like from the blue line, tippable pucks too. I liked his preseason. I thought he was entertaining in preseason. I wonder if you deal with some of the same struggles that Lohrei has dealt with, though, just like because of his development needing to take a jump to adjust to the NHL level. And obviously the defensive side of things at that pace is the harder part to learn and adapt to.
It is. It is. I would also just say I don't see they both have offensive ability, but I don't look at Brune as the same player as Lohrei at all. Like when I watch the two of them play, they played far much different than I think people may give credit to. I think that Brune has a little bit more edge to him and feistiness and he I don't know. He has some defensive prowess to him. I will say I haven't seen him enough. I will say that, but and I don't know. And there's a big difference between a preseason game in late September against 80% AHL players versus mid-regular season. I fully admit I don't know what Brune looks like in an NHL game, but that's kind of why if Lohrei continues to struggle, I'd want to see it at least.
Yeah, same. Like I thought he was good defensively training camp and preseason. I think he becomes an option if it ultimately works out that Lohrei needs more time in the press box. And it's like, you know what? Maybe he's a guy who's just out of the lineup more than he's in. Then I think calling up Brune and giving him a run becomes an option. Where things are right now, I think Callahan and Aspero are better suited to the in out. Okay, Lohrai's he's only gonna be out a game or two right now. Then he's gonna be back in for a couple games. You might have to go sit in the press box for a couple games. Like that probably doesn't really. It's probably not a great situation for Brune, who just needs to play. Like even like I saw people, when they on Sunday was when they put Hampus Lindholm on IR, which it turns out that was only for like 36 hours, and called up Aspero and like I tweeted at the time, like more than anything, that's just to have an extra body going on the road for a game. But I got the question from people like, why not Brune? Well, Providence had a game on Sunday. So if Brune's not going to go play in Ottawa, you want him down in Providence playing on Sunday rather than being on a flight to Ottawa for a game he's going to sit in the press box for. So, I could definitely see Brune as an option at some point. But let's see how Lohrei responds to this. Like, I'm going to be fascinated whether it's Thursday or Saturday, whenever he gets back in. Going to be really interested in how he plays.
Yeah, and if he comes back in, when he comes back in, how does a Lohrei Jokiharju pair look? Like him with McAvoy didn't look great defensively, and then you like McAvoy is at least a pretty physical player. Jokiharju and Lohrei both kind of aren't, and I don't know what the dynamic of that pair really is. And I did want to read the quote from Sturm before the game, just so that if people missed it, what he said about why he scratched Lohrei. He said, we expect more from him, and sometimes you have to press the reset button. And it's not like we're trying to bury him. No, I want to help him, and that's part of the process. And again, you get some good things, but too many mistakes lately. So, being honest, I think that gives a good idea into the way that Sturm has looked at him let's just call it like the whole season, but he lists it the last few games, but like it's kind of been there the whole year.
So I know Marco's not going to say anything other than what he said there, especially with what I'm about to talk about. But what we expect more from him, is that even an accurate statement? Like it.
I think it is. I mean,
do you expect more from him when he had the numbers he had last year and has also struggled into this year too? Like, I mean, he hasn't proven. It's not like he's like in a defensive slump. To this point, he needs to prove that this that he's something other than what we've seen defensively.
I think they
So
just expect more defensively from any guy that's on the active roster. You know what I mean? Like in order to keep a spot, you have to reach a certain bar.
yeah, I
So
mean
you expect more than
that's a fair way to put
Yeah,
it, I guess. But specifically to the player, he has to prove that he's not what he's been defensively so far.
well, yeah, but I think Sturm has also acknowledged recently, like they're not going to completely change what Mason Lohrei is as a player. He made a comment a few days ago, or maybe this was late last week. He was like, if you're a sprinter, you're going to be a sprinter. If you're a marathon runner, you're going to run marathons. Like you're not going to change that. And I think that's an acknowledgement of like, yeah, Mason Lohrei is an offensive-minded player. He's always going to be an offensive-minded player. He's never going to be a stout defender, stay-at-home guy. Like they're not going to completely change that, but they need him to improve in that area. And I think, to me, like I think what they really need to see from him is, all right, look, maybe he's never going to be strong enough and physical enough to consistently win battles and knock guys off the puck, but you got to do it more than he has. And I think what's really frustrating is the soft plays on the puck. Like that is more just lack of attention than anything. Like we talked about that defensive zone face-off play, now going back like a handful of games where he just kind of lunges in and tries to poke it away instead of like decisively swooping in with power. The play in Ottawa where the Bruins have numbers back and end up with 3 guys stuck below the goal line defending one Senator who then gets the puck to a wide open Drake Batherson in front. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of a comedy of errors that pile up there where Corrali, Charlie McAvoy defends the initial rush perfectly. Like, I forget who it was, but rides him off into the corner, out of danger, puck's free. Corrali swoops in and immediately puts the puck off a skate. Now Lohrei has to swoop in as like the third support guy and still has a chance to make a completely clean play, get away, start the breakout, and then he fumbles the puck. And it's like, okay, that at least can't happen. Like, be stronger on your stick, have your body in the way, whatever you need to do, but come up with that puck cleanly. No, like soft touch and oops, the puck jumped off my stick. Like that's now happened a couple times, and it's like you might be able to put up with some of the other stuff, losing physical man-on-man battles, but you better make those plays. Like part of his strength is supposed to be the way he handles the puck. All right, then be stronger when it's on your stick. Like those weak stick plays, to me, that as much as anything is what got him scratched Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, Torrey Krug, right? I mean, I don't remember exactly what his advanced analytics were defensively, but he was viewed as an offensive defenseman who was a power play specialist, but maybe wasn't the best defensively. But Torrey Krug competed his ass off all of the time. So just because you're an offensive-minded defenseman, that doesn't mean that you can't compete. And that's ultimately, he's just too easy to play against in his own zone. It's that simple. Like Torrey Krug was a pest. He played much bigger than his size, and I'm sure he wasn't fun to play against despite his stature. I mean, you have to be hard to play against. That's what it comes down to with me. So I don't know what the pairings would be with Lohrei back in the lineup. Would you go Lindholm, Jokiharju, and peak Lohrei, or Jokiharju, Lohrei? I'm sure Jokiharju and Lohrei, if given time and space, could move the puck well. Time and space is not something that's given to you at the NHL level, and I certainly am petrified of what they would do beneath their own goal line in front of their own net as a pair. But I guess we'll see if that's even the sixth defenseman in the lineup on Thursday. They may like to keep it.
Can I read some feedback too to when I posted Sturm's comments about Lohrei? We got a lot of comments and different opinions. Well, we can talk about what you think about these, but a very common thing. Like at least, I don't know, 7. I keep scrolling, I keep seeing more responses have to do with when he scratched Lohrei, but when does McAvoy get scratched? He's supposed to be one of the best D-men in the league, making $9.5 million per year. And he's -5 with 20 penalty minutes so far, which he's not -5 anymore. But at the time of this, when I put this out before the game, he was. And this was not the only person. You should actually do that to McAvoy. McAvoy needs a reset. OMG, McAvoy is 10 times worse. Like these are the comments that people were leaving on the post. I think most people agreed that it was time to scratch Lohrei, but a lot of people also were saying it's not just his fault that pair was struggling and that McAvoy maybe needs a reset too.
Well, McAvoy responded. He bounced back and was a big reason you won Tuesday night. So that's why you don't scratch your best players, because that's a game you need to win. Like about as close to a must win as you can get this early in the season. If you scratch your best player and then get blown out of the building, like I think everyone's looking at Marco Sturm going, why the hell was one of your best players not on the ice? So you have to have enough faith in your top guys that they're going to be able to pull themselves out of it. Mason Lohrei is not one of your top guys. So yes, he's easier to scratch. That's the NHL. That's all pro sports. Like, call it unfair if you want, but that's the reality of how it works. That goes for any sport. It's, if someone, if look at the Patriots, like if someone was dogging in practice or making mistakes in a game, like it's easier to healthy scratch the backup offensive lineman than it would be like Stephon Diggs, who's your number one receiver. Like you just give those guys more leash because they can do more for you. And you have to hope that they're going to pull themselves out of it and help you win. So, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that McAvoy was struggling every bit as much as Lohrei, but what he can do for you and what his ceiling is way higher. So you have to keep rolling him out.
Yeah, and it hasn't been all terrible for Lohrei. Like, I mean,
he just had
three assists he had 3 assists in a win against Colorado. That we talked about before that game was a must win against an opponent that you can't expect a must win against, but they found a way. And I don't think Lohrei was terrible defensively in that game, and he had the 3 assists. So, but again, most nights he leaves a lot to be desired defensively. So I want to move on to Morgan Geekie, because Scott, you brought him up earlier, and I do believe he was more so sent down to the third line as a demotion, because if you were looking for balance, you wouldn't have done it 5 minutes into the game. You would have done it right at the opening faceoff. And I also don't think it's the first time that he has been lazy on a back check leading to a goal against in recent games. Happened against, I want to say it was either Ottawa or Colorado. I'm blanking on the game right now, but because it was 7 goals, maybe it was the Ottawa game. Mental lapses, they do happen. And when you're on a 5-game goal streak like Morgan Geekie is, you do have it just goes to show you don't always have the benefit of a leash. I mean, he's on a 5-game goal streak and he gets demoted to the third line as a wake-up call.
But by the way, like ice time and spot in the lineup is also a kind of punishment. Charlie McAvoy played 17 minutes Monday in Ottawa, fewest among Bruins defensemen. Like, there was a reaction from Sturm to McAvoy. Like, Charlie McAvoy being 6th among the team's defensemen in ice time, like, that is a form of punishment.
And someone commented to me that he had 4 minutes of penalties, which isn't true, because he was in the box for a total of 36 seconds over his 2 penalties, because Ottawa scored right away. So it's not even one of those situations where, oh yeah, well, he would have been at 21 had he been no, he was in the box for 36 seconds. That had very little to do with his overall playing time. But yeah, Scott, that's exactly right. I mean, fans watching, as spectators, fans really feel it as a wake up call when someone gets scratched, right? Because it's more noticeable. But you're absolutely right. When you're within those walls and you're in that team, demotion in the lineup is very much felt as a player. So
I wanted to read his quote about what like Geekie and Khusnutdinov when they got swapped, and then like we can talk about just how much you think it had to do with demoting, how much is it about balancing, or is it just purely one or the other? But he said, he said we did it a little bit last night, meaning the Ottawa game in the third period. Actually changed it and I liked it. I wanted to see a response in the Islanders game to see how they would fit right away, and then decided he wanted to go back to that look that he had in the third period with Khusnutdinov up on the first line and Geekie on the third line. He said that's why he says Khusnutdinov skates well. He hunts pucks for those guys, for Pasta and Lindholm. So like he likes how he contributes to the dynamic of that top line, and basically just kind of different combination of players to balance things out was what he listed the reason as. And he did mention, like, when he saw how they started the game, he decided to split it up because it wasn't a great start.
Yeah, because they saw Morgan Geekie dog it on the back check on a goal against 13 seconds into a shift.
It was a demotion. It was a demotion with positive results, is how I would describe it. Because you're not going to Khusnutdinov on that line in Ottawa if you're not getting your ass kicked in the first place. If you're in a tight game, your first line's playing well at even strength in particular, you're not even changing things up in the first place. I don't think Marco Sturm went into Ottawa thinking, maybe I can switch up Geekie and Kuzi in this game and see what the wheels do with Pasta and Khusnutdinov. And then again, like I said, against the Islanders, they started the game with Geekie, Lindholm, and Pastrnak, and then you have that lazy back check again, as I'll mention. Not the first one that Geekie's been guilty of. He was guilty of a couple lazy back checks in recent games. One led to a goal, one didn't. So it's been a recurring theme. And I've really liked Geekie's game this year, and I like his transparency in the locker room. There's a lot to like there. It's okay that he's had a couple of faults here early on with some lazy back checks, but they're trying to get that out of him. But to me, it's 100% a demotion with, like I said, positive results. So you see Khusnutdinov hunting pucks and creating opportunities with his speed and tenacity on that first line for Lindholm, who's not the fastest guy in the world, and who also has had his struggles at even strength. And then, Pastrnak came into the league as a very fast skater, but the NHL pace back in 2014 was a bit different than it is today. So I wouldn't classify Pastrnak as a burner in today's NHL. I would classify him as a above average skater in today's NHL with world-class finishing ability. So to have somebody who can have some quickness like Khusnutdinov, I do see the benefits of it, but it absolutely is a result of a demotion to Geekie.
Yeah, and I thought Khusnutdinov really took advantage of the promotion. Like that line with him, Lindholm, and Pastrnak was good, and I thought he had a really good game. The shift that they scored on, which was it ended up being Hampus Lindholm setting up Pastrnak, but he forces a turnover at the offensive blue line early in that shift. Then the Islanders come up the ice, Bruins get it back, they start going the other way. It's kind of puck sort of bouncing around the neutral zone. He's the one who swoops in, cleans it up, gets the zone entry, dishes over to Pastrnak, and then that basically leads to like the cycle, couple passes, and then the goal. So that was a really strong shift for him, and it happened with using speed through the neutral zone and the hunting pucks that Sturm mentioned, like forcing a turnover. So yeah, there were good things there. Now, do I expect that line to stick? No, I think Geekie's going to be back in the top line next game, probably. Maybe Sturm gives us a look another game. Because the flip side is I didn't think the Geekie, Mint, and Janot line had any chemistry at all. Like they had, and that's not surprising. I don't think Geekie's ever even practiced with either of those guys. Yeah. So that's not surprising. But like there were multiple plays where like one of them would make a pass or drop a pass to the other, and like the guy was skating the opposite way. And it was like, Yeah, that looks like guys who just have not played together or practiced together.
Well, wait, Brian, I got to say this because I think we extremely buried the lead because it took us this long to talk about Khusnutdinov playing well on the first line. Like this was a big night for the Kuzi gang. And I know you were happy when you were watching it on TV, and I was sitting there on the night floor like, this is Brian's dream right now. And you're not the only one, because I've had multiple people comment on tweets that I've put out about Khusnutdinov, about like, or just about the lineup at all, like, and just bring it. Oh, we want to see Kuzi on the first line, and those people got what they wanted. And I can't believe it took us this long to bring it up.
Got to be humble in your victories, right? But
well, I just think I was like, Brian's prayers to the Kuzi shrine were finally answered.
Well, don't. Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, Khusnutdinov is not on the first line is not something I think that makes sense on a deep team. But I don't think a fourth line's the most appropriate spot for him either. I feel like he does need some more skill around him to, iron sharpens iron sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it's. I remember when he came over last year, it was like I thought, I kind of said it tongue in cheek. Yeah, no, I kind of said it tongue in cheek. I was like, yeah, it might be fun to see him with Pastrnak because of his speed and skill and creativity. And again, this is during a time of year where Boston was heading straight for, we were checking Tankathon every day, right? But yeah, I mean, Scott said it right. Like, good on him to take advantage of that opportunity, right? That's not a given. So he definitely, his zone entry, his net drive, his screen in front, all positive developments that led to the Pastrnak tying goal. Again, we haven't really touched on just that stretch of hockey, but I mean, when Lindholm scored, it just the flip switched for the Bruins, and it's amazing what a feel good moment can do for a team over the course of a game. But yeah, Boston obviously had a huge second period, and that line was part of it. But before we go, I just wanted to mention also, what about the idea of it, let's just say you keep Khusnutdinov on that line for a little bit, and Scott, you mentioned you don't like that third line. What about Geekie playing his natural side with Middlestat and Zacha, and then sliding Arvidsson down to the third line or something like that? Like, you don't want Geekie permanently in with the Chanel and Minton, I guess is my point. So if you're gonna keep Khusnutdinov with those guys for a little bit, that could be a spot to put Geekie for a small amount of time.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, that could work. I mean, I think ultimately very soon here, is possibly as early as the next game, I think Geekie's back on the first line. I think that's the combination that you want to have. I've said it before, like, they haven't been great 5-on-5 this season, so you do need more there. So, like, I'm not opposed to shaking it up at times, but ultimately, like, I think you want to give those guys a chance to get out of it, because how special that Pastrnak Geekie chemistry can be, and I think the sooner they can get back to that, the better you're going to be as a team, and then you figure out all the other lines from there. But yeah, if they need a few games apart, then sure, Geekie on that second line, bump Arvidsson down. That makes sense. I would like to see Khusnutdinov on that third line for like a little bit of time and see what kind of chemistry he can form with Minton, and it's probably Jeannot who stays there, but like, I don't know, Minton and Khusnutdinov, two younger players who you hope stick around for a while. Like,
I think their styles are so different. Like, they are like two completely different players. And not saying they can't gain.
Yeah, I was gonna say, guy, you don't need line mates to be the exact same kind of players. Like, I could see how it works. Like, I can see their styles complement each other too.
Really, because I just think they don't think the game the same way. At least doesn't seem like it, but doesn't mean that they can't grow to.
I mean, totally different players, different time, different place. But I mean, Milan Lucic and David Krejci didn't exactly have similar styles or think the game the same way. Yeah, I don't know. It is funny how sometimes styles make fights, right? So, I mean, you never know. I'm not holding these guys to the standard that Krejci and Lucic set.
I
That's
was
not
gonna
my
say, that's
point
a
at
high
all.
bar.
That's not my point at all. I think any
I just think
context would tell you that, but
I just think it ties into Brian's earlier point of like fourth line doesn't really feel like the best use of Khusnutdinov. Although I do think he's been effective there at times this season as well. But he shows me more than some other guys who've gotten looks in that third line, and I would just like to see him get a little bit of a look. He started Tuesday's game there. Obviously, it only took a couple minutes for that to change, and he gets bumped up. But I don't know. Like, I think it's worth looking at.
all right. Well, we'll have some more time to get some looks at this against the Sabres on Thursday. So we'll see what Marco Sturm puts out there. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we go?
Just very quickly on the third line, like, good to see Fraser Minton get going here a little bit. Don Sweeney on Nesson pregame said Minton was their best player in the Ottawa game, which is faint praise given that no one really had a good game. But I did think like he had a good effort, and then Tuesday he gets an empty net goal. I think that had to have felt good just to see the puck go in at all. We had talked on our last episode, like at that time he had, I think it was 1 point in 10 games, and it was like, man, are they gonna have to send him down? His ice time's kind of been down some of these games. Played 15 minutes Tuesday night in a big win, so nice to see a response there.
Who starts in goal against Buffalo?
I think it's Swayman. I understand the argument for Korpisalo. We barely talked about him, but he was really good Tuesday night.
He was great in the third period.
Yeah. And he was great on the penalty kill. The Islanders go 0 for 4, but that's not 0 for 4 because they ran into a great penalty kill that didn't give them any chances. They had chances. They had 12 shots on goal on those 4 power plays. Korpisalo was excellent.
Yeah.
So like I get that. Like if you're like just look at the last 2 games and say Korpisalo is the hot hand, but I also think again I know apparently a lot of people disagree. I think Swayman has mostly been pretty solid this year. Was not Monday night. That was a bad game. But I think you have to give your number 1 a chance to respond and not sit until Saturday.
I think that's fair, Scott. I think that's fair. So we'll keep tabs on that. Bridget, you're all set?
Yep.
All right. Thank you all very much for listening. We'll talk to you on Friday.